Here's a rough and ready solution to question 6 from the week 3 quiz. Okay, so I've got Excel here, proudly displaying a t-value from an earlier critical value from an earlier question. Now looking at A, we're asked to generate a sample of 100 values from a uniform distribution with parameters 0 and 10. And the easiest way to do this is using the data analysis tool. So I'm going to left click on data, and over on the far right, which I think you might be missing here, I'm going to press data analysis. It brings up this menu. I want to get some random numbers, so I'll have to go down to random number generation and then click OK. It pops up and says, how many variables do you want? Well, we just want one. This is the number of samples, so we just want one variable. Then it says, how many random numbers do you want? Well, the question says 100, so let's enter that. I've already got it set up for the uniform distribution, but we'll choose that. And then it says, what are the parameters of this distribution? Well, the parameters for this distribution are often represented as A for the lower end of the uniform interval and B for the upper end. It doesn't actually use A and B here, but it does tell us between 0 and 10 is what we were asked to do in the question. And then down here at the very bottom we can decide exactly how we want this output to be delivered to us, either in this worksheet or in another one. I'll just ask for it here. It then wants to know where do you want this data. I'm going to click on that cell or that box and then come and click on A1 at the very top of the sheet and then press OK. And Excel in column A now will have produced 100 random values for me. I can go down here and have a look, and yes, the values are going right down to 100, which you can't see. The values are going right down to 100. Okay, so that is part A completed. The next part, B, asks you to work out the standard deviation and the mean of these values. There's a few ways that you can do this, but I'm just going to use a function for each of them. To calculate the mean, you can use the average function, and to do that you type equals and then average, open a bracket, and then you can go and highlight or select all the values that you want to find the average of. So I'm going to left click, and then while holding it down just select all the values right down to my last one. Close my brackets and enter. And so there's the average for this sample, 5.181. For the uniform distribution, every number in the interval has an equal chance of coming up. So if we have an interval that's ranging between 0 and 10, we would expect the average value to be about halfway between 0 and 10, which is 5. So this number seems reasonable. Then we're asked for the standard deviation, and it's a sample standard deviation. So I'm going to use a function again. It's the standard dev function. So I'll type equals stdev, open brackets. Now I could go and highlight those cells again, but instead I'm going to take a little bit of a shortcut and type A:A. That's basically just saying do this calculation on everything that's in column A, and when I do that I get an answer of 2.82. Now the population standard deviation for a uniform distribution that is ranging between 0 and 10 is 2.89. So again, our sample value is pretty close to the population value. And that is part B done. The final part is to construct a histogram for these random values, and to do that we have to set up some bins first. Bins are sort of the upper end of intervals in which we're going to be counting these random values, and you're asked to set up the bins from 1 to 10. You could type them all in. I'm just going to highlight those two, hover over the bottom right hand corner, and then left click and drag down, and oops, one more. Excel is clever enough to know that I was just wanting a sequence of numbers that were 1 to 2 set the pattern, and then it said, okay, well, you want other values that are 1 more than the previous cell. So my bins are set. Now what I want to do is go into the data menu area. I'm going to go over to the right hand side, which you can't see, and click on data analysis. It brings up the same menu as previously, but this time I want to do a histogram, and I'll click OK. It says what's your input range. I'm going to highlight all of my 100 random values. Done. Then it wants to know the bin range, so here I have to click on that bin range and then highlight it. What we want here is I just want the chart output, which is actually going to give us a straight histogram, and then we can choose where we want it. I'm going to actually get it to, oh sorry, you couldn't see that last bit, but I selected only the chart output down the bottom here. And now where do I want the output to be? Where is it going to produce this histogram? Well, I'm going to get it to produce it in this worksheet. And where exactly? Well, let's put it just underneath my bins. Okay. And so it's produced a histogram there. It's a little bit small, but there it is. So it's said that in the value for values between 0 and 1, remembering that 1 was the upper end of an interval, it counted 9 values in my sample. There were 10 between 1 and 2, 14 between 4 and 5, and there weren't too many between 3 and 4. But you expect to see this kind of sampling variation even in a kind of sample like this size of about 100. If we were to take more and more samples, we'd expect that this distribution would start to be very more and more flat, and in an infinite number of samples it's a continuous distribution, and you get a line that would extend like directly from here across to 10. Okay, so that is question 6.